Hey, Debbie.
Yes, Dave.
So we are going to add the Transportation Committee report to the agenda. And then we are going to plan to consider the two contracts, the 2101 and 2102, as part of that Transportation Committee report rather than later in the agenda.
Log it in that thing every month.
Where are we gonna do the,
I was doing this one because of,
On regular agenda item 4.1.
that's me.
4.1?
Yeah, but that one was because they're doing the anti-cop. Jumping. It's really good. But it isn't, all cops are bad, is it? You have laws that will handle that cop. Just be patient.
Every trade, one bad apple.
Anyway, there was a, I went to everyone till just a month ago.
So see, there's
And
one.
you're like poking your, how big was the time with that group?
Morning, Terry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Hi, Terry.
Good morning.
Morning, Terry.
Good morning,
Terry.
Debbie. Hi, how are you?
Good. Mandatory. Only ones you should try, and if you can't, like,
Yeah, I just.
prison one, because it's not a big deal. So you got an alternate, thank you.
It's got dark in here all of a sudden.
I can bring Martin back.
Light.
Yes.
Morning, Josh.
Morning.
Morning, Eileen. How are you?
Fine, thanks, David.
Okay.
Oh, if I under, will begin, and this meeting will be held in person via WebEx, phone conference, and streamed on the internet. The public may join this meeting via WebEx in person in the meeting room or watch the live stream. If joining the meeting in person, the total number of persons, including commissioners, cannot exceed 10. The governor of the state of Minnesota has issued Executive Order 20-01 declaring a peacetime emergency and coordinating Minnesota's strategy to protect Minnesota from COVID-19. On March 24th, 2020, the Pine County Board of Commissioners declared a local emergency for Pine County. Based on these conditions, the chair of the Pine County Board of Commissioners has determined that the requirements of Minnesota Statute 13D.021 Subdivision 1 have been met, and it is not practical or prudent for all members of the county board to meet in person. Public is invited to join this meeting in person or remotely. With that, we'll call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public forum, is anybody on the call that wishes to speak in public forum? Anybody with their hand raised? There's nobody here that appears to want to talk in public forum. We'll move on to the agenda.
Mr. Chair, there are some additions and corrections. And so if we could, under the Personnel Committee report, number 3A, small I, the end date of the part-time dispatcher was changed from June 15th to May 31st, 2021. And then on additions, if we can add to item 4.1, the Transportation Committee report, and then item number 7 on the regular agenda is the highway contracts that are proposed for consideration. If we could move those to be discussed and considered as part of the Transportation Committee report.
Any other changes? If not, we'll look for a motion.
Ludwig will move.
Morrow.
A second.
We'll go with Josh. We got Ludwig, motion, Moore second. Any discussion? If not, let's see, Debbie, call the roll.
We can probably just call it.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
Thank you.
thank you. We'll move on to the minutes of the May 6, 2021 County Board meeting and summary for publications.
This is Terry. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you.
Ludwig will second.
Got a motion by Lovegren, second by Ludwig to approve the minutes of May 6th. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
all right, we'll move on to the minutes of boards, reports and correspondence. Pine County Housing Redevelopment Authority, Board of Directors meetings for March 24th and regular meeting April 2nd, special meeting April 16th of 21.
Morrow move that.
Lovegren will second.
Motion by Moore, second by Lovegren. Approve the HRA minutes. Any discussion? Not. Debbie, call the roll.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
We'll move to the consent agenda. Got several large items on there. Hopefully everybody's comfortable with that.
Ludwig will move.
Morrow second.
Got a motion by Ludwig, second by Moore to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I did have just one little comment. I'm sure everybody looked at it, but the liquor license credit, that was one of the things that we kind of talked about at our first EDA meeting. And hopefully that Kelly had brought that up about just trying to add a little bit of relief to some of these people that haven't had business like usual. So we did do a similar thing last year as well. And hopefully this is just kind of an ongoing, hopefully things get back to normal, knock on wood or whatever, whatever normal is. But that's just something I'm a little proud of, that we did do that. And I appreciate Kelly bringing it ahead. So.
Thank you. I also wanted to note the timber auction results were very favorable, so
Yeah.
that's awesome. We do have a motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore. If there's any more discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it brings us to the regular agenda. First up is Health and Human Services Advisory Committee report. Matt, you gonna start out?
Yep, I can start it out. We met on 5th of May. And talked about the legislative issues with public health and then you, Commissioner Helen, you brought up the mobile dental clinic, which I was surprised at the number of people that we serve with that. It was impressive. We get over 200 people each year that get served by the mobile dental clinic, and that's going to be maintained through the 2022 budget. We had a public health update at that time on the 5th. I think Pine County was about 40% vaccinated. And then we need to make sure that we know that May is National Foster Care Month and Mental Health Awareness Month. And we just had a quick discussion on the courthouse update. Bids should be finalized by June. And 65 of the employees, of our 95 employees, will still continue some level of telework. So
I think that's a awesome number, and we're proud of our HHS people for stepping up to the plate and figuring out how to do that. And I think it's one thing to be a worker. It's another thing to be a supervisor of people that are working from home and make sure you're comfortable. And those people tell me the workers are doing awesome work. They're turning out great work. And
I think and I think it benefits the employee.
right.
And I think it benefits clients, if because if they're happier, and the county with space and workspace and all that. So I don't know if it helps IT with maintenance, but
I think I hats off to Ryan and your crew for making that happen, because I think we had, some of us in the back of our mind had this idea that we could we could have a workforce that was more diverse from, as far as working from home. I don't know if we ever would have, when we would have ever got to the point. We've experimented with it a little bit, and we had, I think, 1 or 2 people that did it, kind of. And certainly some county commissioners have worked from home. More than
Mr. Chair?
others, but
So, it's for Ryan. So the only concern I had, and I know I had it early on, is security with data. And I don't know how we speak to the public, but I think it's easy for you, you can maintain it pretty easy, can't you? You know,
Yep, so thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. The data really never leaves the county servers. The employees use a VPN, which is a private network, to get from their house to the county network. So a lot of their work is being done through the county's network and on the county servers still. So it's really not at their houses, it's just kind of viewing it on their laptops.
so it goes, if someone was gonna try to hack, it would have to come through your system at the county to,
County system. Yeah.
that's, yeah, it's kind of in the news these days with the pipeline thing
And Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ludwig, our greatest vulnerability, like any organization, is our employees. And
Yes.
we have a pretty robust training program where there are spam emails that are intentionally sent out. And if employees do, click on links that they shouldn't, they'll be automatically enrolled in additional training on security. And so that's worked very well. And that is just something to keep in mind. Whenever you're on a computer, you are the greatest vulnerability.
thanks.
Thank you. I just want to add one thing to Matt's report, and that is going back up to the dental thing. It's been a idea of mine that these kiddos that we have in our county that it's not their choice sometimes of where they live. And if we can help get them dental care when they're little, it follows them through their whole life. And I'm really proud of our public health and our HHS people for really making that work and help those little kiddos that get the dental preventative care that they need when they're real little.
Yeah.
And that's a hats off to them. Move on to the facility committee report.
Yeah, I can take that. Well, we met down at the, your facility at the Airport Road, and then we traveled over to the recycling center in Pine City also. The courthouse remodel. First, the carpet should be installed by the end of the month. Furniture was approved. Then hazardous waste site, where were we at? They're gonna expand, was 12 feet, I think we decided on, right? That they can move in further into the garage space to allow storage. And then in the winter, that'll be converted back over for the space to be used as a motor patrol. Talked a bit about the budget. The bond, 186,000 bond refunding could be put towards the solid waste recycling and construction of 2 buildings. One of which it sounds like, right, Matt, would be up Willow River area there, we're thinking,
What's that?
for the building to build.
Yes.
And it's quite busy at the recycling facility down there in Pine City.
I've stopped a
really-
few times, JJ, and it's always been busy.
Yeah.
My God.
So it's good to see that stuff's making it there, my
Yeah.
opinion, instead of getting thrown in the ditches and so, and after everybody had left, I spoke a little bit to the gentleman working there, and what a very nice guy and considerate, and seems like he's got a really good handle on it there,
Yeah.
the employee there.
Jeremy.
So I was impressed. So that's what I got for facilities.
Thank you. Personnel committee.
Yeah. Josh, want me to take that? All right. Yeah, so, we met also on the 5th on that, or no, 10th, sorry. And these are the following recommendations we made. With the sheriff's office and dispatch, we acknowledge the resignation of part-time dispatcher Tiffany Stromberg. I think that is a change from,
It's May 31st now.
that?
The date is May 31st on that one now.
Yeah, that's changed to May 31st. And we approve the backfill of that position and any subsequent vacancies that may occur due to internal promotion and lateral transfer. In Health and Human Services, we acknowledge the resignation of child protection worker investigator Haley Newman effective June 11th, 2021, and approve the backfill and any subsequent vacancies that occur due to lateral transfer. In the administration, we approve the following changes to personnel policies and procedures. Section 8.6, the deferred compensation plan, removed the specific vendor names that were in there and just kept the plan the same. And photo ID proximity key card, the access, the previous policy focused on courthouse location. And that policy was updated to all areas of access and language requiring the supervisor and human services notification for lost card remained. Then the vacation donation program, the term catastrophic was removed to allow employees more donation request opportunities for qualifying illnesses, injury, or medical conditions. Easier personnel committee. And I will make a motion to approve those, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore to approve the activities within the Personnel Committee. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
District 3, Commissioner Lundgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig. District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
Public Safety.
Want me to take it? Sure. Okay, fill in if I missed something.
Yep.
Okay. We met on May 11th. Our first big discussion was just the purpose and the mission of the committee. And I'll start off right there. I think it's really important that we as a board open up some kind of dialogue at some kind of regular basis with the sheriff's office and the jail. We really don't do that. They come to us, and so I think we're gonna meet quarterly to start out with, and it may change to twice a year or something. But just so there's room for those initial discussions to happen and then get at a committee level and get to the board. Just seems to make sense. To get stuff on the radar a little earlier, maybe.
Right.
I don't know how you guys feel about that. So that's kind of what we discussed. And then Sheriff Nelson gave us a update on his current operations and staffing. And I'll go through some of these. Of course, we have state patrol, conservation officers, Mille Lacs band officers. And it used to be when I was working that you could count on those people for backup, state patrol and the COs both, and now the state patrol is running short. I think they might be too short. The band isn't having the presence over here that it used to have. So it's putting a more impact on our officers. That's just kind of out there. And the other big difference is the way society has changed in the last 2 to 3 years with that, anti-police attitude, and we having more chases. It's a different world than it was 3 years ago. And it's affecting that department. That's just for what it's worth. And then we have the contracts that we have with cities that, they show up on our numbers of officers, but like Pine City contracts for 2 officers, Hinckley contracts for 2 officers, and when they're contracted, the city's paying for those extra hours to stay in their jurisdiction. So they they try to do that, but if there's something major, they'll go out and help, and the cities are fine with that. So those, are 70 hours per week at, Pine City and Hinckley. And then Sandstone contracts for 50 hours. And then that contract salary, I think they're charging 57, 77, or I don't know, $58, which kind of gives you the man, but it doesn't give you the car and the abuse and the brakes, because when you work a city, you're on stop signs the whole shift. So you wear stuff out. So anyway, with that, just knowing all that background from, 10,000 feet, the current staffing level is hard to get to all the calls in a timely manner, just because of the way everything's happening right now. So Jeff is working on a plan to change the way the sheriff's department's going to function. And he wants to add another sergeant, which then will create a sergeant on every shift. So then and those guys stay there, then they'll have teams. So the teams can, and it's nice, if you know how your partner's going to respond after you work for a while and take a call. It's just like anything, military or construction or any job, it's just a kind of a good system. And I think I like that idea a lot. And his other plan is right now we staff two part-time. And he wants to eliminate that part-time for us altogether and convert that to one full-time. That was our discussion. We don't know how we're gonna get there. It's two bodies. And he also would at some point like to add an administrative position, a lieutenant or something, but he's working on getting his priorities and exactly how, so that's our discussion. We did not make any decisions, but you all know what's happening. So I don't know, can you add anything to that, JJ? Kind of a general meeting, but it was a good meeting. It was good to have a dialogue with the sheriff like that. I thought it was really good. And he talked a lot about the calls.
Yeah.
And how it's changed so much. He said, I wouldn't even want to work a shift right now. I'm going with, because it's just so different. Different things, so.
Yeah, that's, well, they're definitely busy. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and people have this expectation. When someone, and we had a discussion about that, when someone calls 911, they want someone there. And we hear about that as commissioners and so we know it's out there. But they prioritize, they triage their calls, so the important ones they get to. And if it's small nickel dime ones, you get to them when you can,
And just the size of the county, the amount of miles they have to cover. And,
Yeah, the geography is.
we talked a little bit also about, they want to see them out on the road, and
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Speak for myself, but I think we talked more of the more you can keep them on the road in the public eye instead of maybe being bogged down with paperwork and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think
Yeah.
it's more important too, to keep them out there, to be seen, to be present and be
Is that working out,
mobile.
where they've been able to write the reports in their cars?
Yes,
That whole system flowing?
it is. And the one thing I don't know about is where they have to get before they can upload it. They have to be within range of something, I think, but they can at least get it on their computer in the car. When they get close enough, it's kind of like a text coming in when you're on your cell phone. I think it works like that. That's the way I understand it. But you're right. And I think, and the public wants to see the cars too out there. But it's really important, and I'll tell you this you can't talk about things on the radio when you're planning things, because it's scanner land, and then they all don't have cell phone coverage. So they have to get together and have a cup of coffee, because that's where they do a quick share of the stuff that they're working on. You don't want to take that away.
No.
Yeah, and that's also a good opportunity for the public to make a contact,
Yes.
yes,
Absolutely.
see them in a local town.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Because I've been there when they come to the Rock Creek Cafe to have a cup of coffee or breakfast, and people are, hey, as long as they're here.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. You can't count how many times when I was there with somebody, hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
It's almost every time.
Yeah, it's a good.
And of course, you got a whole group to help answer it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And thanks for getting out some regular meetings scheduled. think we've talked about.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's gonna be a good committee. To get the timing of it figured out.
Yep. Thank you. Transportation. We met today and Mark, you're gonna present?
I can help.
Yeah. We had a good discussion and Mark is an engineer that, that's his world to plan stuff out. And we appreciate that, Mark. And I think the biggest thing I appreciate is you've kind of taken the politics out of the build this road because it's in my district or JJ's district, build this because it's the worst road we got. Or it ties into another project we're doing. Let's do it kind of more scientifically.
Yeah, that's the plan, and it opened 2 bids on a couple contracts. The first one is box culvert for Windermere Township, and that's a town bridge project funded by the state. Windermere Township pays up to $20,000 towards that cost. And we had 3 really good contractors bid. Their bids were higher than the estimate, and Landwehr Construction was the low bid at $145,987.25. And I think, looking at the contractors that bid, I think I can safely say this is just kind of where the bids are gonna be at on that, so comfortable with that price and would recommend we award that. And then the second project we opened is our resurfacing projects for this summer. There's 21.5 miles. So it's a big year. The biggest project is the 61 project from Kettle River Township, or Kettle River to the North County line. It's 11 miles long. So I think it maybe brought in an extra bidder or 2, and that was nice. And we got 4 excellent bids. Low bid was Knife River at $5,173,709.95. So we were well under the estimate, and what that'll do is that'll make up for some of the lost state funds that we had and set us in the right direction for next year so that if we have a change in bidding, we'll be more prepared for that. So that's the action item.
So we need a motion to cover contract 2101 to Landmeer Construction and contract 2102 to Knife River. We can,
I'll move it.
Ludwig makes a motion
I second.
and JJ seconds. Is any discussion, questions?
Mr. Chair, I do have one.
Yes. Yep.
Hey, Mark, Central Specialties, where are they out of?
They're out of Alexandria.
Alexandria?
So they'll come over once in a while, but Anderson Brothers, they typically do MnDOT work, and so it was nice to see them give us a good bid. Dunick, they're I think they're southwest Minnesota. They don't usually come up here. Is that correct, Steve?
Yep.
Yeah. And if they
Okay.
do come in the past, their number's been way high, and so, I think their number was a good number, just Knife River. If Knife River wants a project in our county, they'll probably get it because they've got a lot of the pits tied up, so we got that for us.
I think this is a good thing because wasn't it last year we only wasn't Knife River the only one that bid on a couple of our projects?
Yeah, I'd give them a little reminder. They had to sharpen their pencil this year a little bit.
Yeah,
'Cause,
yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, it's good to see.
I suspect the oil prices are gonna go up. I don't know if they'll stay up, so I think the timing was good, and sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. My case, it's the story of my life, so. Keep going. Hey. Keep going with that.
Well,
So
thank
that-
you, Mark.
Yeah, those are the bids, and then we did talk about the overall projects this year. We got a little more detail on that, and,
Hey, Mark, can we do the motion
I'm sorry.
and then we'll,
Yep, go ahead.
Debbie, you want to call the roll?
Sure. I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Steve. Is it okay to go forward?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark, we did have a good conversation about upcoming projects. Mark's got plans all the way to year 2020, what, 30 or something, 35. But the 5-year plan is the one we really can focus in on, so.
Yeah, you know, we're kicking around, some project with the sales tax, so there'll be more discussion on that and, I think the end of June. 5-year plan, right now, we won't reveal that till probably the next meeting, but we're looking at adding another year as usual. But the first 4 years of the plan that exists, we didn't have to make any changes. We feel good about that. And, so if you have the list from last year, those 22, 23, 24 and 25 are the same. The only changes we're adding in, the Wheel River box culverts, next year. So if you got that old list, it's still good, but we'll be going into that more detail. It's really kind of tied into long-term planning if we're going to continue sales tax projects and things like that. So, off on any more details on that. But overall, I think we had good discussion, and I don't know if there's any transportation related questions anybody has.
Anything to add, JJ?
JJ's spinning. He got more than he probably wanted for this morning.
I would just like to add that I reached out to Mark a couple times this last month with questions that people had of the county on their roads and stuff, and you get back so fast and quick with email and calling back. I just want to thank him for what he does. Does a great
Thanks
job.
for bringing that up, because that's one thing, Mark, we get calls on, and it is so nice to text you or one of your road bosses and get an answer. Sometimes right when somebody's got you cornered at the coffee shop to say, yeah, they're gonna be out there this afternoon, and then they show up. It just alleviates that.
Well, and I want to hear, I know there's a lot of times you get calls and you probably just don't want to pass it on, but don't be afraid to let me know or someone on the staff, because we can do some, that's what we're here for. Sometimes the answer isn't what they want to know, but at least we kind of know where the concerns are. So I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not even 3 weeks ago. I had one on a Saturday and it was an irate, it was an ambulance thing. And I just texted Mark. He answered like within 10 minutes on that text.
You got the phone
Saturday.
That's what they're for. That's a great technology.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
before we leave the transportation, do we just want to talk a moment about the sales tax?
Yes.
And we're, based on current elections, we have about 2.5 years left until we hit the total collections that have been approved. As noted, Mark has worked on a long-range plan out to like 2035 that is going to propose some sales tax spending. We have a committee of the whole special meeting scheduled for the 29th of June, where we'll be talking about that. And if there's a desire to reauthorize the sales tax, that would best be done by the end of the year to allow the long-range planning that's necessary for these transportation projects.
so we're not gonna figure that out today, but put it on your radar screen for the 29th of June. If you have questions prior to that, ask Mark, ask David, ask me, ask somebody, ask Leslie. She's got all the answers. But
How early is that 2-year? Are we ahead of our scheduled sunset? I can't remember the date.
about 3 years ahead of our
That's what I thought. I
You know.
think it was gonna be.
said sunset
And
date.
probably the more important thing from my perspective is we're looking at some projects that are coming up and trying to incorporate that so that it kind of affects some of our projects even next year. So we want to have some decision by this fall where we can can we go ahead with these or should we dial it back? And it's a long list and there's things to discuss and it can be broken down into shorter time periods and things like that. Just want to make sure that you have all the long-term information so that you can make that decision.
What was our goal, September? Is that soon enough or do you want it before that?
I think
And
it'll
it's a pretty simple question.
remind after we get done with the June 29th meeting.
I would
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
have some direction there. This is something we think this is when we can make a decision or not, I think.
And I would think coming at that June 29th meeting, you would decide either you want to schedule a public hearing, in which case you could set it,
That's what I was going.
or you don't want to continue the sales tax, and then that would mean we wouldn't have to do anything further.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would just continue with the projects that are in there until the money runs out. But that does affect my 5-year plans.
Very good.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks, Mark.
got that done. Now, moment we're waiting for is the introduction of our economic development coordinator, Leslie Sauter. So we're very pleased to have you here, Leslie. Thank you.
I'm happy to be here. David said I have to say 2 sentences.
You can say more than that.
I don't know what else I need to say. I'm super excited to be here as a resident of Pine County and somebody who's worked in the region my whole career. I loved working at Lakes and Pines, so you'll find me bringing a lot of that to the table. Because I think when there's opportunity, people can really move up and out of poverty. So I'm excited to bring that component to the county. And more excitedly, I think not having to work on a regional basis on that stuff, bringing it kind of zeroed in on a county level. That was my goal when I went to the city of Pine City. So I'm excited to kind of bring some of that development experience there, coupled with what I learned at Lakes and Pines and my network of people that I usually steal some ideas from and pick their brains. So nothing is usually 100% mine. It's stolen, it's recrafted and respun to look pretty. So thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we're excited. We're excited.
Yeah, okay, make a comment. I remember you standing in front of us. I think it was Lakes and Pines at the time and you were doing a housing study. How long ago was that? 6 years ago or something?
5 years ago, yeah, 6 years ago. Yep. Yeah, and lots came from that. So
I know, I used that data. I used that a lot. Those numbers that came out when we were having other stuff, other discussions. So, yeah,
yeah,
thanks.
it's been a fun ride. I mean, I've been doing this about 15 years. So I'm super, I know I said it like 3 times, excited to bring it here to where I live and where I'm raising my kids. So hoping to bring some fun stuff.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah,
Yep.
welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
We'll pile, you're probably gonna have to tell us to quit piling on the work, because I think we've all got projects for you. David will manage that. Tax and CAMA RFP award.
Mr. Chair, this is Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. So you've heard me talk since about 2013 about our tax and CAMA system, those of you that have been around. Since the late 1980s, Pine County has been on an AS400 based property tax and CAMA. So CAMA is computer assisted mass appraisal. So that's how we come to those. We've been on a AS400 based system since the late 1980s. We're still using the same green screen system that we have. It's a very tried and true system, but it is outdated, of course. And our current vendor says they are no longer going to support it after December 31st, 2023. And so we have, since the last 8 years, been trying to decide where do we go from here. And we're getting close to that deadline. And so we needed to come up with a real plan of where we go from here. Because conversions between systems can take sometimes up to 24 months. And so we need to get moving. So last winter, we released an RFP for a tax and CAMA system. The things that we really highlighted in that RFP were that we would like it Windows-based, and we would like it to be the same vendor for both tax and CAMA. There's a lot of companies out there that only have a tax system or only have a CAMA system, but then you run into problems because the two systems have to talk to each other. And in my experience at another county, that just creates issues because change one thing on one side and then it needs to change on the other because now they can't talk to each other and it ends up to be a mess. So those were kind of our two big things we were looking for. One system between the two, one vendor for the two systems, and that it was Windows-based. We got 5 responses to our RFP, 2 of which were Windows-based, 3 of which were Windows-based, and 2 of which were AS400-based. So the team of myself, Ryan, Troy, Deputy Assessor, Lori, County Assessor, and Melissa Berg, Deputy Chief Auditor Treasurer, went through those RFPs, and within the RFP, we had a grading system, so like a grading rubric. And when we went through that, we came out with 2 top vendors. One of those things on the grading rubric was cost. The other things were ease of use, platform, those types of things. And when we got through that grading rubric, we were left with 2 vendors, Tyler Technologies and CPT. Tyler is a Windows-based system. CPT is an AS400-based system. Which a little bit surprised us that we ended up at that grading with that AS400-based system. But the other 2 Windows-based systems were our current vendor, who we've waited since 2013 for a Windows-based system from and still has not produced. And then the other one is called Augmentum, which actually used to be Manatron, which was a system Pine County had bought into back in 2008, 2009, and it was painful. And so with those histories, we ended up with these final 2. And then last week we had extensive demos and Q&A sessions with those final 2 companies. And coming out of that, we came to the conclusion, all of us were on the same conclusion, that Tyler Technologies is like buying the Cadillac. We could spend a tiny bit less money and go with CPT, but then you're spending still over $200,000 to buy the same thing we currently have, the Ford, where we could spend just a little bit more and get the Cadillac. So in our minds, it brings us back up to technology that's actually used today. It is, it has all the bells and whistles we could ever want. And so we're recommending today that you authorize myself, Ryan, to go ahead and start negotiating a contract with Tyler Technologies. The initial buy-in to the system is $287,100. That's actually less than what our buy-in to many other systems that we've gotten quotes on from previously, including our current vendor. Our current vendor was about $320,000. So the one-time buy-in is actually less than what I had budgeted in my mind this whole time, about 300 to 350. The one place that it is more expensive than our current vendor and what our current vendor proposed is the annual maintenance and support. So right now it looks like the annual maintenance and support is going to be about $77,000 a year, where our current system is at $50,000 a year. But the big difference, as Ryan's explained to me, because that was a big number I struggled with, a $27,000 difference, comes to the fact that this is a completely hosted system. It's hands off for our IT department. They do everything. There's an issue, they fix it. They deal with the backups. They deal with putting the updates on. They deal with everything. And that is the only option with Tyler, is that they host it and they do it.
Is it hosted offsite?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so, when I add up the one-time cost, 3 years of maintenance and support, it gets to be a really big number. That scared me when I put it down, $518,000. But then you have to take a step back and realize that that is a one-time cost and then 3 years of maintenance. With that increased cost of maintenance, I have worked through the compliance fund, the recorder compliance fund, because those are statutory monies that can only be used for property records. And that's exactly what this is. And so the one-time purchase, any increased maintenance costs that we have, any increased costs because we're gonna have to run 2 systems during the conversion at one time. So when we're paying for that extra maintenance and support, all of that can come out of that compliance fund. So we're not asking for any levy dollars or anything like that. And so it makes it easier, in my mind.
At the end of the conversion, will the AS400 be able to just go away? Or do we still have stuff that's hosted on that?
We still have a few systems that are hosted, but the plan would be before we have converted fully to Tax and Cama, those systems would have been removed as well.
So we
400.
we wouldn't have that beast hanging around anymore.
No connections to the AS400 anymore.
That's a good thing in my mind.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a question. So Kelly, you've talked in terms of this being the Cadillac. You're talking in terms of performance, not necessarily cost, because you had some higher proposals, correct?
Correct. Yes, exactly. So we had proposals that had much higher costs and costs that you had to keep, like this was the base price, but then if you want this part, you got to buy more, and then this part, you got to add more. And, you know, those parts weren't even optional. So then when you start to add up all those costs, they get much more expensive. So this is, I mean, it's the Cadillac, but without the price tag, really. The only price tag that is a little bit scary is that annual maintenance, but it takes a lot off of our IT department and,
Just not having to own that 400 anymore.
right, we save not having to own that 400 anymore as well, because we have annual costs from that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So is the annual maintenance something you negotiate after the first swing, or is it a set fee?
I'm gonna try to negotiate everything.
And then my next question is, if you were gonna roll to that, if you picked the AS400, would your rollover be easier or would it take the same amount of time?
So Tyler Technologies in the last year has converted, 2 years, has converted, I think, 5 or maybe it was 7 people from our existing system. So they have all the scripts and everything written. So it sounds like it's going to be, I mean, a conversion's always a little painful, but it's going to be a little less painful because there's been other counties that have gone before us.
Is there anybody in our neighborhood that uses Tyler?
Yeah, what did you say?
Anoka.
Yeah, Anoka's the closest, but like Crow Wing uses it. You know, some of those little Watonwan County is going to it, and they're picking up more and more counties as we go.
So then my next question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So, you know, I remember hearing from some of the assessors in the field, is it gonna be easier for them, because they said they could upload stuff if you have a Windows base versus what you have now?
So there's 2 answers to that question, I guess. So, yes, I mean, right now, our appraisers are doing things in the field electronically, but it doesn't upload automatically into the system. And that's what we'll could have to continue doing with this. We could buy their additional field mobile assessing, but that's 50 grand, and
Okay.
I'm not gonna ask for that.
Okay, that's why I was wondering if it was just there.
Right, no, it's not just there. In some point in the future, should things be going really well and we have somebody, you know, we decide, hey, let's buy that, great. But right now, it's not something that I'm proposing.
Sure, I have a question.
Yeah.
And thanks, you guys, that was one of my questions, so thanks for covering that. I was gonna ask what other counties, and then where's Tyler from? Where are they?
They are based out of Pennsylvania. However, it's kind of interesting because several of the support people that we know from our existing company now work for Tyler and are in Minnesota.
Oh. Thank you.
That's nice to know. At the end of the day, the average person getting their tax statement isn't gonna know we did anything, which is maybe a good thing or a bad thing. But I mean, it's just the system we have. It's just like buying a new snowplow truck. It's a new truck. It's gonna cost way more than the old truck did, but it still plows snow.
So the one thing that I do, which in my financial impact portion, I wanted to mention to make sure that that's on your radar. In 2020 and 2021, the current tax and CAMA system and annual maintenance, we took that out of Ryan's budget and we've been paying for it out of the compliance fund. And the intention was for it to always go back to Ryan's budget, but due to our struggles with making the budget and balance in the last couple of years, we've continued leaving it there. So when we get to the 2022 budget and the 2023 budget, I've got kind of some options laid out, but I think some of that has to go back into Ryan's budget with purchasing this new system, but that's where it used to be.
What's the maintenance fee with the one you have now?
About 50,000 a year.
That's what, but
So we need a motion on this to move forward.
Yes.
This is Terry. I will make a motion to go forward with this.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah.
Moral second.
Thanks, Josh. Is there any more discussion? I just want to say thanks. I mean, I can remember, I think the first meeting I was on they were talking about moving tax and CAMA. I didn't even know what tax and CAMA was, but it's been 8-9 years of slogging through all these vendors, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
You can go, Terry.
I just wanted to add that working there, this has been such an ongoing project, and I am just grateful for the committee that worked on this and decided where they're going to go. I know that they spend a lot of time to do the right thing for Pine County, so thank you very much to your whole team, Kelly and Ryan.
Thank you.
My comment was, did you ever think you were going to find something?
I questioned a lot.
Okay, I think we're out of questions. Huh? Did you have something to say, Gussie?
I'm sorry, Steve. I'd had my hand up for when Mark was speaking. I was going to ask him something about the county equipment.
Oh,
He's actually left the room. Do you want to, can you send me the question, or do you want to have him give you a call?
I will do that. I'll send you the question, David, and he can get back to me when he has a chance.
Okay, thank you.
right.
You bet.
Debbie, you want to call the roll?
Sure. District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
All right.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Moore, as the vice chair, do you want to take over? Steve had to step out for a minute. And we're on the One Watershed One plan, and I think Caleb is in the audience to talk to that.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll move on to number 8. One Watershed, One Plan, Kettle River, Upper St. Croix.
Thank you. And I was sitting across the hall in my office virtually, and I saw all these faces gathering. I said, it's time to meet. So happy to be here. One Watershed, One Plan. Previously, I brought a resolution of support for an application to you, which you guys had adopted. We're proceeding with an application. The majority of the Kettle River and Upper St. Croix watershed falls within Pine County. We're about 70% of the watershed. About 40% is Carleton County, and a smaller fraction, around 6% for both Aitkin and 6% for Aitkin and 6% for Kanabec. So by the program standards, Kanabec and Aitkin would be optional participants, but for it to go forward, Pine and Carleton would kind of have to be on board. So we've done the Lower St. Croix watershed plan. We've done the Nemadji watershed plan. We've done the Snake watershed plan, and this is the last one. And so we've learned the game a bit. And because this is such a big part of Pine County, our office is interested in being the fiscal agent, and we're writing up the application in coordination with Carlton SWCD and Pine SWCD. It's a competitive program. And there's a number of criteria for the applications, one of which is having an MOA in place at the time of application. Previously, one of our partners would apply for the state funding, they'd bring it back, and we'd all apply or adopt the memorandum of agreement. And that's just the agreement under which we all plan together. There's a policy committee that one of you would be appointed to. There's an advisory committee that county staff, SWCD staff would participate in, and then a steering committee. And it's a whole framework. So we all live and operate under the MOA. But for this go around, we're feeling the need to up the ante and be a little more competitive. So we've brought the MOA for adoption prior to application so that we score more competitively. And there's a contingency on here that the MOA is nullified if we're not funded, but becomes active upon funding. So, and then also they ask about appointment from the board as well. So I am asking the board to consider adoption of the memorandum of agreement and appoint a county commissioner to act as the participant on the policy committee upon funding, and as well as an alternate. That's what I know.
Thanks, Caleb. Thanks for coming. And so we'll consider first the adopt of the memorandum of agreement for the Kettle River One Watershed, One Plan.
Ludwig will move it.
A motion by Ludwig,
Terry will second.
Lundgren seconds. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Reese, review this?
He did.
That's what I thought. Want to make sure they know that, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Reese.
Any other discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lundgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, the appointment.
Not till we get it.
Pardon me?
Wait till we get it approved, I think. Right?
I was requesting if you'd be willing to do that, that would be awesome.
Oh.
It was in the application that someone has been appointed.
That's what I understood.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Do we have Matt, you've been on the Nemadji one. You want to be on, do we get just one?
And then an alternate,
Official?
correct?
I'm game. I'm fine with that if you want.
I would, Matt, because the Kettle River is a big deal for us. I was on the Lower St. Croix. That's a small part of our county, although a very important part. Nemadji is a small part of our county, important, but I think we've all learned from those experiences. But Josh has been involved with the Snake River forever. That's a big part of our county, but the Kettle is really that's our big baby. So we want to make sure we're getting that one right, so.
I guess one other thing just to be mindful of is it's like a 2-year planning process where that can be, it's a decent time commitment, about monthly, less in the middle of the planning. Once that plan gets adopted, the way most of these groups are moving it to more is like meeting twice per year just for implementation of that 10-year plan. And then that can be reappointed at that time as well. It could be a different person for the implementation phase. And then Bowser also We haven't seen yet, none of the plans that have been made yet have reached that 10-year maturation where they go on to be renewed, but they anticipate that being a much less time-intensive renewal process as opposed to these first one, these plans, it takes a long time to put them together, a lot of meetings. So I guess my point is just to be encouraging that it's going to get easier.
I think as the board chair, I can appoint Matt. Is that correct, David?
Sorry, yes.
Yes. So, thank you very much, Caleb. Anything else?
Thanks, Caleb.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Housing and Redevelopment Authority Commissioner vacancy. I believe we have a
We have a,
replacement.
yes, we have a recommendation from Commissioner Lovegren.
Do you want me to speak on that?
Yeah, would you please?
I would love to. After many phone calls and just having a hard time, Trevor Gaylor, who I'm actually very excited about, has accepted the appointment for this position. He is the manager, the branch manager, and the vice president for the Hinckley Northview Bank. His expertise is going to be just a huge benefit to this committee, and just sounds like a very nice young man. I just think he's going to be a huge benefit. I'm excited about it.
Are you making that a motion?
I would love to make a motion that we accept Trevor Gaylor as our HRA commissioner.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Morrow, second.
Thanks, Josh. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes,
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
and just authorization of a letter of appreciation to Jan Oakes for her 16 years of service to the HRA Commission. You need a motion.
If you wanted to do a motion or a consensus is
A
fine.
consensus maybe on a letter to Jan?
Yeah.
I think that's very deserving of her great service to us.
Yes.
Do we have any legislative updates other than they did come to some kind of global agreement that we'll find out in the coming weeks of really what they agreed to?
Well, that is it in a nutshell. The legislature adjourned yesterday. And so we know for sure there's going to be a special session in June sometime. The leadership has agreed to a broad framework. The more you read about the broad framework, the more you recognize that there is not a lot of detail in the broad framework, and that the conference committees are going to have a lot of work to do in the next month to develop the actual legislation. But it's probably more hopeful today than it was 3 days ago with regards to a budget that is sustainable and getting something done before the end of the state's fiscal year, which ends the end of June.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So have you learned anything, David? The county getting any parameters on the dollars we're gonna get? The state doesn't direct that though, does it?
Well, it depends on dollars for what.
Oh, so the state can direct on top of the federal government on the.
So the American Rescue Plan money.
Right.
No, the county gets that money direct. I'm looking at Kelly to see. She's submitted the appropriate paperwork. We expect the first tranche in our account within days.
But no,
there's
you
no
cannot
state,
spend it on this.
no, there's no state role in that.
So I was wondering.
Cities and township money rolls through the state.
Yeah,
And so there may or may not be, but at this point, I have not heard that there's any additional strings attached.
okay, yeah, that was my, if we distributed to the cities and the townships. I didn't follow that part, but, okay, thanks.
We'll stay tuned.
And the,
If you can make the, excuse me, David, but if you can make the June 2nd AMC district meeting, that's held up in Two Harbors,
That's the third or the second?
second or third, whenever. Anyway, that's usually by then they have sorted out a lot of the details.
and a lot of our details on the American Rescue Plan money are going to be sorted out by the Economic Development Committee, which next meets June 14th. And so by that meeting, I am anticipating with Leslie's assistance that we will create a framework of all of the county money. Here's the different pots that we would want to consider allocating it to, and here's some potential amounts. You know, there, things might be like broadband, I'm assuming are one of them. And so we're going to rely on the Economic Development Committee and Leslie to really put some pencil to paper on those details.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move on. We have a public health update today.
Hello. I'm here. I get my camera going.
There we are.
So
Hi, Sam.
a few things have changed since the last time.
Yes.
This week was an exciting week in the world of the pandemic. One of the big ones that's more exciting for some than others is that the Pfizer vaccine has been approved for 12 and up. So if anybody has a teenager or a preteen, 12, they can now get the Pfizer vaccine. Moderna is still 18, Johnson & Johnson is still 18, but that was really exciting progress for those of us who have those age kids. The other big announcement that nobody was like, CDC is on lockdown, like there was no peep of this coming, was the changing around masking guidance. Now there's some really good science behind it, but the communication and the messaging of it left something to be desired. So science says that if you are fully vaccinated, which means 2 weeks after your second dose, if you had a two-dose vaccine, or 2 weeks after a J&J, you do not have to mask. You are good. Go live life. Fabulous summer for you. Those who are unvaccinated should continue to wear masks. And then all businesses and states took that as a green light to go, pandemic's over. No masks. So not what the CDC actually said, but the enforcement of it is very challenging, of figuring out who has a vaccine, who doesn't. I understand that's really challenging for a business to stand at the door and go, you have a vaccine card? So I get the business aspect behind it, but truly the recommendation is still, if you are not vaccinated, please continue to wear your mask when you're out in public or in groups of people. If you're not, or if you are vaccinated, life is good. Great thing. Vaccines are really effective, and we've seen that in now clinical data and real world data, because sometimes they don't, efficacy changes, but the real world data is really supporting how effective these vaccines are. So my understanding is that the county guidance around masking for our employees was directly tied to the governor's executive order. So since he removed that on Friday, we do not have a countywide rule anymore. I will still provide all of the same guidance that the CDC is saying, that if you are not vaccinated, please continue to wear a mask. It is Scout's honor system at this point, which, you know, would be fun. If you're ever popping in at a vaccine clinic, you will see all of my staff continuing to wear a mask because we are considered healthcare at that moment. We are a clinic, and there are specific rules around healthcare continuing to wear masks. So even though the vast majority of my staff are vaccinated, they will continue to wear masks because we're in healthcare and we're about to surround ourselves with a bunch of people who are not vaccinated because they're coming to a vaccine clinic. So just a fair warning in case you wonder why that's happening. We're healthcare in that moment. Schools are another place where you will continue to see people wearing masks. The safe learning guidance has not changed until July 1st. All those rules stay in place. So kiddos continue to wear masks, which makes sense because a lot of them aren't eligible or they were just eligible, which means they're not fully vaccinated. And teachers, even if they are vaccinated, continue to wear masks. Moving forward for our vaccine outreach, we've done a little over 7,000 vaccines to date. And now we're moving into just these really targeted outreach. We did a walk-up clinic with Johnson & Johnson on Friday at Sandstone, at Chris's in Sandstone. We got 45 people done, and the vast majority of them said, well, you're here, so I guess I'll get it, which is exactly the kind of people we were looking for, who probably aren't going to put the extra effort in to schedule an appointment, show up at a certain time, but they're not against getting vaccinated. They just were like, oh, you're here, sure. Those are my people. You know? So it was really well received. So we're going to continue to do that. We've had some challenges finding businesses who are super enthused by us coming. So that's an interesting challenge I wasn't totally prepared for. That's okay. We'll work through it. We found a couple events that we're going to do tag on to in the coming week. So you will see us out and about in the community. Should be fun. We'll have giveaways other than vaccine. So come get a cool yoga mat if you see us. Other than that, my only last update is that at the HHS committee, we talked about the frequency of me coming to update the board itself instead of just the HHS committee. And I'm more than happy to provide updates whenever you summon me. But unless there's something really exciting like last week, it's generally just a status quo at this point of public health continuing to do these outreach events. So it's not super exciting updates. So we were thinking, unless something crazy happens that would make sense for me to come and talk about that, I would pause for now, unless you had questions, and then I would come and answer the questions. If that makes sense. It sounds good to everybody.
Yep, it does.
Fabulous.
Thanks, Sam.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one more note on the masking piece. So the district court is still an area that is under a mask order by the Chief Justice. And so if you're a county employee, whether you wear a mask or not, depends somewhat on whether you're vaccinated, as Sam explained, but then also the work you're doing, which may require a mask, or the location you're doing the work. For example, if you're in courts, you follow their rules. And so I don't think there's any confusion among the employees who are actually doing that work, but I just wanted to clarify that you may still be an employee wearing a mask because of where you're doing the work or the actual work that you're doing requires it.
Sam, one bit of information I would appreciate still getting from you are vaccination numbers or rates or whatever you want to say. Because I'm assuming even though for us that are vaccinated, that there's still a lot of people that aren't vaccinated, they will continue to come into a clinic someplace and get vaccinated. And obviously, I'd like to see that number get up in that 70–80% range, but I am encouraged by the people my age. I think that number is way in the 70% range, 75 or 80%. So we've done a good job.
Yes, you have the over 60, I think 60 or 65. Fantastic vaccine uptake right now. You're spot on, over 75% for Pine County. I can definitely continue to just send, it could just be a consent agenda item where I just send you a quick update for vaccine rates so that everybody continues to get those rate information. I can do that.
Yep, thank you. And tell all your staff thanks for, I know the work isn't done because y'all had lots of work to do prior to the pandemic, but for a year, you've done way more, and especially since when January, your life has revolved around vaccination clinics. So we appreciate the extra effort you're all putting in.
Yeah, it's been a team effort for sure. People are a little like, oh, I get to do my normal job now a little bit. That's exciting. So it's been really fun to juggle both now as we ease off on the huge clinics and do these little clinics. It's kind of a fun juggling act at this point, but people are excited to do both things now. So no, we appreciate it. It's been a crazy whirlwind of a year and a half almost. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. We need any more on the American Rescue Plan? Did we cover that?
I think we
Quite
covered it,
well.
unless there's any other questions.
All right. Commissioner updates, AMC Coffee and Conversation.
I went to that. There's a lot of talk about broadband because there's a lot of money out there for broadband right now. And so that was a big part. Another concern is the natural gas cost and what's going to happen to our communities. So they talked a little bit about that. And then redistricting is a big thing because we probably won't get numbers until September. And so the question is, will we be able to use those numbers, or will we have to go by using the older numbers and then just use the newer numbers in a couple years or whatever? So that's kind of the process that the attorney was talking about, trying to figure out how to do it when that's coming at such a late date. That's about it.
So Terry, I think of redistricting all the way down to our level.
Right.
So it's possible that they won't have new numbers for us in our county to even consider anything different.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about. So we'll have to just kind of wait it out and see what happens. But that was one of the concerns that some of the other commissioners were bringing up, was how are we going to do it with the redistricting? And that's what the attorney had said, was we may not be doing anything with it at this point. And I think he was talking about just the commissioners at that point.
Okay.
Because it's got to work its way down.
Well, we'll whatever it is, it is.
Right,
We're
exactly.
not gonna change it, and it's no use losing any sleep over it, so.
Right.
Central Minnesota Council on Aging, we met last week, I think it was. There are some grants available. I passed that on. Excuse me. To Becky. She's looking at putting together something for food support. One thing we did learn through this past year is apparently we have a tremendous amount of people in Pine County that are on the edge of the verge of lack of food support. And so she's going to work with them in getting a grant to make some of these pop-up sites a more permanent thing for us. We met with Congressman Stauber the other day. He mostly stopped to let the people know that he has submitted the project with the Mille Lacs Band for broadband, and that it made his cut for, I keep wanting to still call them earmarks, but they're not. What are they?
They're community projects.
Community projects.
They're earmarks.
They're earmarks. Well, this project rose to the top of his list as being something that he's going to submit to be a top project. So that's encouraging. Really, that was the gist of his stopping here, was to let us know that he had taken our paperwork, handed it off to the next level, and it has his full support. So I think that was the whole gist of him being here, wasn't it, David?
Yes.
CBR Accelerate Program, that's the Blandon thing. I don't know. How many weeks long is that, Terry? Complete? 16 weeks?
I'm not really sure. I just know it's every Friday.
I think we've done it June for 35 weeks already.
Yeah.
Seems like it. Holy cats.
it will wrap up in June, and then we will, as the team, make a presentation, likely in July.
Oh, awesome.
It's been interesting and I think the good thing about it, it has spurred a lot of conversations that we should have been having probably years ago with some of our incumbent providers and maybe some new providers. And we weren't able to get them to the table and now at least we've been having conversations with them. I think some of them are, quite frankly, courtesy conversations, that might be the right word, where they know they have to meet with public officials, but they're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway.
Yeah, that's the big question. How does that, they don't bid it, they just get assigned?
No, in the end, if we push comes to shove and Pine County says, you know, we're gonna throw several $1 million at this project, then we'd have to go out for bid with it and see, but nobody, I think in my mind, and we haven't come to any conclusions yet. So I maybe shouldn't even say, but in my mind, our potential best bet is to work with companies like SCI and Midco and Frontier and Genesis and whoever else would say, you know, we could serve 1,000 homes if we had some gap funding, because our ROI just is never going to work. And I've been told that by vendors, if we had a return on investment that would work, we would have done it 10 years ago. So what's that gap? How much of that network would have to get built so you could realize enough profit to go after this thing? So, you know, there's a lot of things at play now that were not in play 3 years ago. One is Eli Musk's low orbit satellite system. I don't think that's the answer for everybody, but if you're out seems an area that is not served, it's probably the answer for you immediately, you know, or not immediately, because as Josh could attest to, he signed up for it 3 months ago and he still hasn't had heard a boo out of him of when he'll ever get the system.
Oh, really?
To connect. So yeah,
They took my money though.
They got your money. I think I
At
heard
least the first
Leslie say you
$100.
signed up too, didn't you?
When I heard it was 6 months, I was like, I'll see, wait how long it takes the Morse to get it. Seems like a little bit.
So anyway, we're hoping to be able to wrap this thing up in the next month or so and make some kind of reasonable presentation to the rest of the board that says these are some conclusions we've come to that, you know, will move us forward.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I'd like to add, I did a communications meeting yesterday with Ally through Blandon. And one of the things that was brought up from Kanabec County is to have videos that we can use as presentation to the public, whether it be the townships or if it's the Lions Club or whoever. And it would be probably 4 different people in our county that have broadband issues. Josh, I thought of you. You've got the family homeschooling, you've got your business, you've got all these things going on, and your broadband is not very good. So we need people like Josh that will go on, and it would be a Zoom meeting where they would give their presentation, and then we can use that to show the public where things are at and help promote things coming up in the future also. So that's something that we can talk more about on Friday, but just as a heads up that if anybody has a good broadband story, we need you. And do your broadband surveys online, please. We need to get those done too.
I believe the surveys are going to wrap up this week. So
right.
One last little push to the survey.
Yep.
Between the 4 entities, the Mille Lacs Band, Aiken, Kanabec, and Pine, they have over 3,000 surveys that have been filled out, so that's awesome. Believe just from Pine County, we have in excess of 500. East Central Solid Waste Commission. We had a little bit of a controversial meeting over the CWD. As I've reported before, the Kanabec County Commissioner that sits on that board does not want any deer carcasses from Pine or any other county to come into the landfill in Kanabec County. The board of the landfill has taken an approach that says it is waste, it is considered waste, that we are the solid waste commission. That's our job, is to take waste and dispose of it properly. And if it's here this week, what's it gonna be next week that you're not gonna allow us to take? Then we might as well go back and find a place to have our own landfill in our own county or do something different.
Yeah.
So we took a vote. It passed 4-1 that the landfill will accept deer carcasses. There's a program that will get advertised that they will go in sealed or enclosed dumpster containers, like roll-off containers. When they get a load of them, they'll take them over to the landfill, they'll put them in a special area, and they'll get covered immediately. And so I think they got a good plan to take care of it, but the commissioner from Kanabec County is gonna, I don't know if he'll try to put an injunction on it or what he's gonna try to do, but he not happy with the rest of the board. Anyway, Chemical Health Coalition.
Go ahead, Terry, if you want.
Okay. One of the big things that came out of it is alcohol compliance checks are going to be upcoming. They've been working that out with Scotty Grace, so that's going to be happening. One of the things that I have on here that I just feel that this is pretty overwhelming. In 2020, there was a 27% drug overdose increase in the state of Minnesota, which tells us it's Mental Health Week, I believe, or is it Mental Health Month? But that's huge. You know, it's a big thing that we really need to be aware of and do our job to help our county to be better than that. And that was in the state of Minnesota. I don't know if I added that. We're trying to use up the budget that we have for the coalition because, as we've said in the past, that money is going to be up in June. We talked about Reese and his article that he had on, or not the article, but the presentation that he did on the killing up in Willow River. And Reese, I thought it was fun when I watched that because I lived down by Piper. And so it was kind of like, oh, hey, that connection there. But you did an amazing job. So thank you for what you did and for what you do. Do you have anything that you want to add to that, Matt?
No, I think you covered it. I think, yeah. That's good.
I heard, did they talk anything about how many overdoses we've had in Pine County already?
We didn't get specific numbers, but I reported the uptick from the EMS, the Oxone.
Okay.
That stream of supplies is still gonna be there. We're gonna get a new grant.
Okay.
But it's like, I think a lot of discussions, what Terry was mentioning was like, where do we take the coalition? Do you look for the root cause of the substance abuse? Like, is it mental health and things like that? And I think that's gonna be a really good discussion that's gonna happen and we'll just have to see what's gonna come of that.
Right. Library board.
We were audited and we passed. We did well. And so we have the audit and we paid bills. If there's anybody watching that's looking for jobs, they've got some jobs coming up that they're looking for some qualified people for. That would be good opportunities. you can go to your public library at this point and you can check out state park passes. And so I think it's for like a week or a 2-week period, but that's pretty awesome since we've got a couple of good state parks in our area. That would be a good benefit. And that is about it.
Thank you.
More is going to be having a food bank at their library, talking about Becky working with the food distribution. They're going to be doing it at the library. They were going to have it at the schools, but they decided that a lot of the kids would not feel comfortable going to the schools to get food. But they figured that the teenagers would be more apt to go to the libraries to get food. So that was one of the things that they had going on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Soil and water.
Yeah, I just checked my phone here, but that noise was, I checked my email. I've been trying to get the minutes. I haven't got the minutes from them. Why that's so important is because during the meeting, and this ties into the broadband, they lost
Everything.
They lost all communication. And myself and Aaron were on there, and Aaron Loeffler. And we waited as long as we could and finally bailed out. And then Paula just sent an email after the meeting saying that we're sorry, the internet completely crashed. So I reached out to get the minutes, and I still haven't heard anything. But up to the point where it crashed, is business as usual. They had a little bit of a quorum delay. Somebody was late to get to attend the meeting.
So can they appoint somebody to take Jerry Wise's place, or do they have to have an election?
I can answer that if you.
Oh, okay.
Do you appoint someone?
Oh,
That's what I thought.
to fill out the term.
Right, until the next election, and then that person will.
Okay. Have they appointed anybody yet?
Not that I've heard of, they were accepting applications.
Okay.
Haven't heard.
Is there much for complaints up on Sturgeon Lake with the erosion and high water, or?
There's gonna be June 12th, I see from I think, did you guys get a copy too from the Lake Association? They're gonna meet with a engineer, I believe. I just got that yesterday.
Done a Sturgeon?
Is it still high?
Yeah,
I always heard
Guy?
complaints coming, or I heard there was complaints, so.
yeah, but I got a little bit into that. It was Terry Peterson that attached. It was a memo from Houston Engineering sent to the Terry and the Windermere Township Lakes. And they're talking, it's common in other lakes that are landlocked that don't have and due to the high water that the parts of the state occurred, they're thinking pumping might be an option right away. I would think.
There was so much rain, but we had a dry fall, luckily. But that lake's been kind of sneaking up.
But
An island that,
I still hear talk of it. Yeah, I guess I got a pretty good spot of people come in, customers, and yeah, there's still talk of it, and hopefully this will, do something, I guess. It's gonna be at Holy Mary's Church in Moose Lake on the 12th. They're gonna try to get a plan here. And right away, I think if you're gonna pump it somewhere, the Kettle River is pretty close, just west of town. So it sounds like that's what one way of regulating it better.
Right.
Not that it's gonna run all the time, but when needed. To get that water.
it's just funny because it's a big lake but it's so flat. There's no great, kind of like a Red River deal, It just doesn't run fast enough.
Right.
And of course, they dealt with the deal at Island. We opened up that, when I was still there.
Lakes and Pines, we met yesterday, first meeting in person for a year. So it was kind of fun, but it's a different, we were running those meetings for about a half hour. A long meeting would take 45 minutes. Yesterday's meeting took 2.5 hours. We got the same agenda. I think for one thing, people needed to chat because they hadn't had a chance for a while, but it is kind of a lesson for us all that we chit chat more than we probably need to when we're in person. But we went through the auditor was there And Lakes and Pines is a complicated, every nickel they get in is some grant program that gets pointed at some program someplace in east central Minnesota, and Leslie knows way more about it than I do, but we've got new fiscal people at Lakes and Pines. And everything is okay, it's just a new process for everybody, so it's taken a little bit longer to get work through the audit and figure out what they need. But I think in the end, we'll have a good audit, and we'll have a way better understanding of where we're at. But there's some areas of concern from Lakes and Pines point of view, I believe, with the need outstripping the available funds. And so where we're going to fill those gaps in housing help, for one, the one that comes to mind. And they do a lot of, they're a sub-grantee for places like the Council on Aging to push some of these things out to our constituents. And so they can't do that without money. And so those grants sometimes don't, they need some operating money to give them some breathing room.
Do they have a number on the homeless in the area?
A number?
Yeah.
If they do, I don't know it.
Yeah, it's because I know we don't know how many we have in Pine County, really, do we?
But we kind of do.
Yeah, but that's
They
it.
do.
Kind of a rough.
They do this statewide. They pick a day, and I can't remember the date, but on that date, every year it's the same date at a certain parameter of time. The people that work in the Ministerium Association and all these, our mental health, they do it. How many people do you know that are homeless? And so they kind of, over a period of time, they get kind of a rough estimate of, is that number going up or down? There's a little homeless shelter in Pine City, as you know. Based on their activity, homelessness is I'd say it's gotten worse. Hasn't gotten any better.
Yeah.
The problem we have, I think, is compounding itself now. As we know, home prices are, if you're making 15 or so dollars an hour, buying a home is out of reach.
Right.
Renting a house is about out of reach. If you try to keep 1/3 at that 1/3 level of being your threshold of how much you can afford for housing, it's really, really hard to find a house for $750 a month if you're a family of 3 or 4.
How do you count that number of the 18-year-olds to the 21-year-olds that just flop with their friends and just they just have a circle?
I think that, and I don't know, and I think that number is not just those people, it's all the way at the homeless shelter, they've seen that people my age are becoming homeless.
Yeah.
I mean, all of our ages, it's not an 18-year-old flop.
Hopefully there's some family there that can help. So we should be able to get that number. No,
Somewhat, Matt?
family.
Well, that's the problem. If you don't have family in the
Right.
area, or the family is just absolutely sick and tired of having you on their couch. I'm looking for some great data I got yesterday. They do this survey every 5 years or 3 years or something. And the top 5 needs for East Central Minnesota are medical care or medical insurance, food, dental care, utility assistance, and affordable housing. And most of us sitting in this room don't have those worries. If that's the thing you're worried about every single day of your life, it's a pretty tough life for you. And so, that's where Lakes and Pines fits in. It took me a long time to figure that out. but
That's where they play, right?
they play in that area and they, I think it's something to keep our eye on, how well they're doing. We need to stay involved with the programming they're doing because it affects a lot of people in our county.
Thank you, Steve, for that.
Anyway, we got a list of upcoming meetings that's arm length long.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I could make a correction on the upcoming meetings, on letter J, the Technology Committee is Tuesday, May 25th. It says the 24th, it's actually Tuesday, the 25th. And then next Monday, we are having a public hearing for our Community Development Block Grant coronavirus applications. And so this is the broadband project that we're working on with SCI and the improvements to a place for you. That public hearing is at 10 o'clock. It'll be a remote hearing and we can also do an in-person in Sandstone piece of it. But we do need to have at least a quorum of commissioners present next Monday at 10 o'clock, and it conflicts with the Snake River meeting, so.
Where's that at now? Is that on here?
It's not on here, so I'm making the arm length a little bit longer.
What's the date?
Monday, the 24th.
And where is it?
It'll be a remote video conference meeting.
Okay. And you're gonna throw a link to all of us then?
Well, yep, we'll send out the link.
I can make it.
I can be there.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need 3. When do you guys make it?
Well, I can try to, I want to be in
Trying to get there.
Deadwood, South Dakota. all the
They
way.
got no service in Deadwood.
Yeah. Go up on a hill,
You gotta get to a hill.
yeah. But I'd have to do that. Jeez.
Oh, we'll have a lot of gigs that day too.
Can you make it, Matt?
Yeah, what time is it?
9,
O'clock.
9, right?
I will do my best to be
I
there.
think it's 10 o'clock. And Debbie, do you have the notice handy just to verify? But
I have 10 o'clock down.
I will double check, but I believe it's 10.
How come it says 9 on our
It's
commissioner
10.
calendar?
there's a Snake River meeting at 9.
Yeah, mine says 10. I just found it.
And then there is,
There's 2 on top of each other. Okay, that's why. All right. We got her.
thank you.
Okay. Any other business that needs to be coming before the board? If not, we'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you. Have a good day.
see ya.
Bye.
Hour and 45 ain't bad.
Steve,
Yo,
will I see you today?
yes. I'll swing in there on the way home.
Very good. Thank you.
If there's a restaurant open between here and there, I might stop.
All right, we'll see you when you get here.
Okay.
Bye.